Waste is a card that has been played lightly in Modern over time due to its good value alongside discard spells. From viewer suggestions, Orcish Bowmaster also goes alongside Waste strategies, specifically with Burning Inquiry. With just Bowmaster on the table, the Inquiry forces our opponent to draw 3 cards, meaning the Bowmaster deals 3 damage and adds 3 counters to our Orc. As the Inquiry also forces our opponent to discard 3 cards, with Waste on the table, it can get out of hand fast. With this list on screen, we will be trying to beat Modern with Waste. Of course, I've included cards like Ragavan, as well as Grief, because we do need some power from Modern Horizons to be able to make this quote-unquote brew playable. But what happens in this video will surprise you. And interesting things begin when we start off round 1 with a nice Tormund Ragavan on the draw. The opponent did play a Tormund Cauldron Familiar, but we have the Fatal Push, so I was feeling confident that this Ragavan could easily connect. This goes out the window though when the opponent plays an Orcish Bowmasters and pings my Ragavan, making a 1/1. After the Cauldron Familiar attacks in, we're put in an awkward spot because we find another Orcish Bowmasters off the top. Here we can either play our Waste or we can use our Orcish Bowmasters. As my opponent is playing a combo deck, which you would know if you watched my previous YouTube video, I went for the Bowmasters. But this developed poorly because my opponent eventually found the combo after I used Waste plus Thoughtseize to disrupt their hand, and they found a Chord of Calling off the top of the deck to win. And game 2 didn't go well either. After the opponent +1'd their Grist the Hungertide on the table, they collected company to find another Grist the Hungertide and an Orcish Bowmasters. This let them ping my Liliana the Veil and kill my Dauthi Voidwalker, essentially ending the game. Now the reason why I highlight this match so quickly is because of the Orcish Bowmaster, essentially winning them both games. In 5 matches, I played against Orcish Bowmaster 5 times. And I think one of my opponents also had the same problem, because when I griefed them, they conceded the match, game 1. Yeah, I griefed them and they conceded the match game 1. Now we do have one interesting match out of these 5, and it's actually against Rakdos Scam. Which I should also say, I've played 10 matches with this deck, and I've played against Rakdos Scam 7 times. But to proceed, we have a nice opening 6, we have a Ragavan, 2 Burning Inquiries, so we can bottom and land, and hopefully find a Waste off the top of the deck. As we play Ragavan turn 1, the opponent has a basic Swamp to represent Fatal Push. We are a beast, so we find Waste off the top of the deck, so I'm praying that they don't have that Fatal Push so I can turn to Waste plus Burning Inquiry from the treasure from this Ragavan. Life isn't perfect though, and they do have the Fatal Push. We're going to proceed by playing our Waste passing the turn, and hoping that they don't have an Orcish Bowmaster so that they can punish us for this Burning Inquiry. But just playing black for a Dauthi Voidwalker, it makes our life very easy, and now with the land off the top, we can even Bowmaster plus Inquiry to kill it. As Malakir Rebirth is a tap land, we have to decide whether we want to play it and then Burning Inquiry, or just Burning Inquiry with more cards in hand. I decide just to go for the Burning Inquiry because if my opponent discards a land, then we will make 2 mana with the Waste to be able to cast the Bowmasters. And to our luck, the 3 cards that we draw from Burning Inquiry, we actually instantly discard them, keeping the Bowmasters, Malakir Rebirth, and Burning Inquiry. So now we can play our Orcish Bowmasters, ping the Dauthi Voidwalker, and Burning Inquiry again, so now we get 3 more triggers from the Waste and 3 new triggers from the Bowmaster. After getting a massive Orc token, killing the Dauthi, drawing a load of cards, I can use the Raven's Crime to make the opponent discard a card to draw another card with the Waste. So now my opponent has 5 cards in hand, we have a lot of creatures on the board, 3 premium cards in hand, and hopefully they can't do anything to beat this. Something like an Evoked Fury plus a Scam card here would actually put them very far ahead, but because the opponent has had their hands ripped apart from the Burning Inquiries, it makes it very difficult for them to have anything like that here. With a Dash Ragavan and a big attack, while the opponent has a Terminate to make sure the Ragavan doesn't connect, after they take a draw step, they lose the game. And going into boarding, we want the 4 Dauthi Voidwalker and the 2 Terminates, and take out all the Griefs and the Malakir Rebirths because they're a bit slow and we just don't want that type of game plan against this opponent. As we are playing against Rakdos Scam, I keep a somewhat risky hand game 2, but as the opponent mulligans to 6 and doesn't have a Scam card with the Grief, I'm feeling pretty decent about this spot. And what's surprising to me is that even though I was on the draw, my opponent doesn't do anything turn 2, and I get to play my Dauthi Voidwalker, and not only that, but they don't have a Fatal Push to get rid of it. Now the opponent follows up with a Seasoned Pyromancer and passes back the turn, not making any elementals. With the Shieldred off the top, I have a difficult decision to make here. As I have Dauthi Voidwalker in play, I can kill this Seasoned Pyromancer and cast it with the Voidwalker. Now I can do this in two ways. Here I can Fatal Push the Seasoned Pyromancer because I have Revolt from my polluted Delta, or I can cast Liliana of the Veil and make them sacrifice it. I decide to make them sacrifice it with Liliana of the Veil because just having a Planeswalker on the table is good value, and this Seasoned Pyromancer should make some elementals to block anything like a Dash Ragavan, but this play is a bit weak to Fury. I think in hindsight I might not have done this play. I think it might have just been better to get the Dauthi Voidwalker and Fatal Push out of my hand, and then look to follow up with the Shieldred. Despite that, we find two great cards off the top in Orcish Bowmasters and Waste Not. But things do look to get a bit awkward when the opponent follows up with the Chalice the Void on 1. Now this is rough for us because a lot of our combo pieces, or ways to actually gain value over the opponent, are 1 mana. Now what is good is we have this Shieldred, and if the opponent has something like a Hardcast Fury next turn, that won't matter because of the large amounts of toughness. After getting in for 3, we can slam this Shieldred, knowing that it can't be Fatal Pushed because this Chalice is protecting it. But to my luck, the opponent has the Terminate to kill the Shieldred to make sure the board is still clear. And after this, you can see that things kept getting worse and worse for me because my opponent kept having an Orcish Bowmaster, then eventually had a Hardcast Fury, and then we just eventually died. Yeah, very rough game. The Chalice of the Void on 1 was really hard for us, and potentially things could have been different if we had a Dauthi Voidwalker attacking, because we did get the opponent down to 8 life. Maybe we could have done way more if we had a Dauthi available to us. Game 3, I mean, it's just Rakdos scam. They do the turn 1 Grief scam, take 2 cards from our hand, then they follow up with a Chalice the Void on 1 to kind of put the nail in the coffin. I think you can see how this game 3 went. We sadly lose to Rakdos scam. Now I know people were complaining about the One Ring, but it was actually insane how many Orcish Bowmaster decks I played against, including Rakdos scam. Now we watch the 5th round where we have this absolutely beautiful game with 2 Waste Nots and an Orcish Bowmaster, plus a load of discard spells. While it's playing, I just want to talk about what happened in this video. I played 2 Modern tournaments and I couldn't stop avoiding Orcish Bowmaster, and that's because the meta is trying to adapt to so many One Rings being played. I have to admit, this is one of the most boring metagames I've ever played. Yes, I was also one of the bad people playing Orcish Bowmasters, but I was trying to at least have some synergy with it rather than play it as just a removal spell. But yeah, Modern has a lot of waiting to do before people work out what's actually good or not, because I definitely don't want to be playing Modern. I'm going to be focusing on other formats for now until the format gets more interesting. As always, if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.